Hi. Hello, week 6 VidResponse. I notice and I should know better, and hopefully I will get all of this reconciled and straightened out the next time I teach this class. But it always hits home how often we look at these competencies, we look at Clinton's phases, we look at coaching and competencies, and we think of them linearly, which they're not. We also think of them as things to attain, right? So where I really want us to come back and to look at, say, with Clinton's phases, is the purposes of each phase. So the phase one, sovereign foundations, come to recognize God as God, cultivate a desire to respond positively to God, taking advantage of what God is doing in one's life. Pretty basic for some of us, but not for everybody. And so you can see these results and these outcomes and the processes and experiences that get us there. So why this really spoke to me was, say, I'm looking at phase two, inner life growth, that you get these integrity checks. And now we're looking at personal growth and ministry expansion, how we expand our ability to do ministry. So with these integrity checks, it's when our values, our convictions are put to the test. One of my experiences with that was when our daughter was a senior in high school. We had just moved to Seattle. She was really wrestling with making new friends, never move a child at the end of their junior year, the beginning of their senior year. Anyways, we're there. She's trying to figure out who she is. She's bringing people home. One, we called him Couch Tony because he slept on our couch a lot because he'd been sleeping in the woods and had had to drop out of school. He would have been a high school senior, but didn't have a house, even a home, a place to call home. And so I had this conversation with her one time because a lot of her friends were, smoking dope and the like, and so I said to her about that, and she said, "Mom, but isn't this what you always taught us, that everyone is we're to embrace and include everyone?" Well, crap, yeah, there it was, right there in front of my face. That's a values and a convictions. How do we deal with temptation when we're tempted to do something? What about when our faith is called into question, or we're with other people, we don't want to speak up who we are? Obedience checks. How are we around possessions and giving? So you can see these different challenges, I guess, is what you would call them. These different checks is what he calls them. Not that we do all of them, but that we experience some of them, and it's kind of along the lines of, how do we come out of that? Are we moving through? Have we had a chance for our faith to be tempted or tested? What about our obedience? Where is that? What stories do you have that go with that outside of the church, right? Word checks. It tests our ability to understand or receive a word from God. I remember some of the first times we used that language, someone had brought us a word from God. That's not language that we mainliners tend to use. So this may not seem very or feel familiar. Again, different kind of language and different way of thinking. That's why I put it out here for us. And definitely, as you've noted all along, that need for a mentor or discipler. Coming back to this coaching worksheet, this is where I really mess up. I take and I hold myself. I apologize for that. When you mean the pre-Christian, the Christian, the disciple, all of those are obvious. The missionary is how we live out our faith in the world, in the church, yes, but beyond the church. If you remember that there's a distinction between ministry and mission. Ministry is what we do within the walls of the church. Mission is what we do outside of the walls. Again, we mainliners think of mission as being foreign missioners, sending missionaries and like, but missionary really is what is my calling? My calling may be to being a refuse collector, right? My calling might be as a teacher. It's how am I living faithful to God, doing what God has created me to be. That's what I like to, how I want to put it. How am I living out what God has created me to be? How am I being a missionary? An apostle then is really, this is line to be along the lines as a missionary who's sent out, but more particularly as a church planter. And this is what when I developed it, it was looking at developing leaders to plant churches. So apostles, if you may remember, apostles are those who are sent out. That's why Paul's an apostle, an apostole, right? Astole is a letter, and apo is a letter that is sent out. So an apostle is one who takes out the good news, this message of Jesus. So not all of us are called to be apostles. All of us are called to be missionaries. That's to work to do what Jesus called us to do within what God created us to do. So, are you able to articulate God's call to live people's faith out, right? Again, this is not. This is regardless of whether you're called to be a minister, a vocational minister, as many, if not all, of you are. So again, it's not about clicking off the boxes. These are what we need to be able to progress from being just a Christian, right? Well, it is just a Christian, to being a disciple, to being one who lives out our relationship with Jesus, right? A disciple who has, as one who has a relationship with Jesus, and then a missionary is how we're living that out within our daily life, be that secular or vocational. Does that make sense? And now I'm wondering if our secular life isn't vocational, which I'm going to say it is. So, our vocational work may be within the secular world, or it may be within the church world, right? As what we've thought of as vocational being, paid to do ministry within the church, but really, that can be within the church or predominantly within the church, right? Paid by a church or a parachurch organization, or paid not in the church. Okay. Wow, the ways language can trip us up, right? Okay, so that's what being a missionary is, and it is about looking, focusing. Do you meet with your with your mentor? You've all got it. You're straight on. You have got to have a mentor, a spiritual director, somebody who is holding you and challenging you, a coach. All along. So that's where I want you to think, not on exactly what, and I know I asked this question, so I set you up, and I am so sorry for doing that. I apologize. I will be making changes to this in the coming, between now and this coming class, this next time I teach this, so I don't trip you up like that at all. It looks like it is linear, but what I'm really trying to get to is how you are growing so that you can grow others, and then how you will grow others, right? So that they can be disciples and missionaries, regardless of where their call is. And so that you're keeping in mind, right? We've lost this art of calling out call. I'm watching it in you all, where you're calling out call, where people have called out your call to you. So we've got to reclaim this ability and this commitment to calling out call. Why don't we have people going into ministry? Why do we have a dearth of ministers? In large part, it's because we lost that art of calling out call. When we think about missionaries and we think about apostles, then we can think about calling out call. So to see what's needed and what the pieces that need to be in there, then you're better able to help other people get to that. I don't want to say get to that point, but live into that calling that they made. that they may have. Excuse me. Obviously, I've got the hiccups. So, thank you so much. Again, thanks for the way you make me think. Thank you for your integrity. Thank you for struggling, wrestling. You're doing it, and um, and I am accepting all the pieces that you've said. I just want to release you from the burden of, oh my gosh, I'm not this yet. Oh my gosh, I'm not that yet. Oh my gosh, I may never will be. Well, you may never will be, and that is okay. This is your path where God is calling you to be and to continue to grow. And we can only grow as far as we know, right? It's the people that can disciple and mentor and challenge us. That's what we need to grow, where we need to go so that we can grow. And if they're not growing, go somewhere else. All right. Happy Valentine's Day. Hope you're having a good day, um, and that you're looking forward to a really great weekend. Be sure to get some rest, take some time for yourself. Maybe you can find a little bit of space on President's Day, and whatever you do to at least one, love yourself. Valentine's Day, not just about loving someone else, love yourself. So plan now for what you're going to do that's nice for yourself this weekend or Monday or in the week to come. Thank you so much again. I will see you on the forums this next week. Bye-bye. You're sticking with me, watching me close down. All right. Bye-bye.